what's going to happen now for non-revenue generating sports if you have these athletic directors who say, wait, you know what, I want to spend the entire cap on just football and, a couple dollars on basketball, and we're not going to carry non-revenue generating sports anymore.
What is up, everybody? Thank you guys for joining us and making Crain & Company a daily watch or a daily listen or both. We don't mind it. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Got a fantastic show for you today. Going to really go in depth about the NCAA versus House, the settlement that has been settled. There's still some questions, but regardless of how you feel about it, whether you feel like it's a good thing, whether you feel like it's a bad thing, at least we have some rules now. At least we just got a couple. Because the biggest injustice out about this whole ordeal, whether it's NIL, whether it's transfer portal, any of it, is that they released it all at once with no rules and no guidelines and turned college athletics into the Wild West. Now, it's not done yet. We still have a long ways to go, and we're going to get you a lot of the information. But thank goodness, for now, we at least have a couple rules, and it gives the schools some direction on where to go and how to manage this. To my left, former Michigan quarterback David Cohn. To my right, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crain. And today's guest, who has just been knee-deep in this whole thing. He's got a great perspective. We want to lay it out in layman's terms so you, the audience, can understand it best. Our buddy from Outkick, Trey Wallace. Trey, boy, what's up, T-Wall?
Hey. It's good to be on with you guys, man. It has been a long couple of, let me rephrase it. It's been a long, 7 months. And then it was like, we're sitting around. I had a betting pool with some folks on Friday. I was like, nope, it's not coming out before midnight. All of a sudden, 9:15 Eastern time, house settlement drops, and I lose out a little bit of money. So it is, man, it's been nonstop. And it's not like it's going anywhere. We got to figure out how to put this thing together.
Yeah.
And so this is going to be a fascinating year as we transition to what the future looks like.
Yeah, and Trey, for some of our audience out there that are like, okay, I understand this settlement happened. What the hell is in it? What did it fix? What is not fixed? I want just your 2 to 3 biggest takeaways from this settlement and what it means, at least after you've read the whole thing. We've all looked at it, but what are the couple things or the 3 things that are the biggest in your mind that our audience needs to know right off the bat? This is different. This is what's changed. This is where we're going.
I think probably the biggest thing to me is schools are going to now directly be paying these players. I think that for something that was illegal, 4 days ago, 5 days ago, now it's legal. For something that coaches were fired for, Jeremy Pruitt comes to mind. I think Jeremy Pruitt was the last coach really go underneath the gauntlet of the NCAA. For stuff along those lines, it is now legal. So what I mean by that is every week, every month, however the payment structure is going to work, when a player receives a wire transfer to his bank or a check, if they're still going to write them, they're going to have that university slogan at the top. It's going to say University of Alabama or University of Tennessee or Vanderbilt and whatnot. To me, that's the biggest part of this, is that the schools now will be writing the checks, but also it's how much money. So for the aspect of that, I know a lot of people out there have heard revenue share and cap and how that's going to play in and how much the football team's going to get. So really, it's $20.5 million that is going to be allotted for each school. Now, how they choose to break that up is up to them. Most schools are going to say, okay, we're going to give 70 to 75% of that $20.5 million to our football team. Mm-hmm. So the football team is going to take in $15, $16 million of that. And then the rest of it is going to be broken up. Basketball, baseball, softball, Olympic sports, you name it. The problem that you're going to get into now is that how much money are you going to allocate to the basketball team? You're going to allocate about $3 million of it? Okay. Well, your roster is going to cost a heck of a lot more than $3 million. So where else are you going to get those funds? I think that was the first big thing to me, is the money. And by the way, that $20.5 million for every school that wants to use it will go up. The second part is, how are you going to afford this? How are these schools? And I know a lot of people out there be like, well, wait a minute. All these damn schools make so much money on football and basketball, and they've got the $20.5 million to use. Why are we have to? No. Like you have to understand that a lot of these schools are barely pulling in revenue. I think Alabama last season, I'll have the numbers right in front of me, but they had $23 million of deficit for what they were paying. So you've got to figure out a way, first off, to pay for this in the sense of you're going to get it from media rights deals. So the ESPN contracts or the CBS contracts or the Fox contracts that are given out to the Big Ten, the SEC, and whatnot could go on and on, Big 12. Okay, that's going to take care of a little bit of it. The revenue that schools make off ticket sales, concessions, memorabilia, parking, that's going to go towards it. But at the same time, the problem that these schools are going to run into is that $16 million is not going to have you competing for national championships in college football. It's not. You're going to have to put together a $35 to $40 to $45 million roster. Okay, well, where do you get the other money from? Collectives, third-party deals, NIL deals that the schools are going to try and set up. But here's the other thing, too. These collectives that you've heard about for the last 4 years and whatnot, there's still going to be a player in this because you've got to find the extra money. The $16 million that Alabama is going to be allocated to use, that's not going to pay for a roster. That might pay for 7 players on the roster. So how are you going to do that? You're going to have to find different fundraising arms, and you have to go to that donor and say, hey, I know we asked for money for the stadium, but we could use $1 million or $2 million to go towards the football roster. And by the way, you have to do this every year. Like, it's not just one time. Like, every year you got to go back to the guys and say, hey, we need more money for this, this, and this. I think the third biggest aspect of all of this going into it is the NIL enforcement. Let me put this out to you guys and for all the viewers. If you have an NIL deal, if a player signs an NIL deal, let's just say Arch Manning. Let's just use Arch. If Arch gets presented an NIL deal that is over $600, meaning if it's $600.50, you have to submit that to a clearinghouse. You have to submit that to it through a computer program. And then the College Sports Commission, I hope everybody's sticking with me here, the College Sports Commission will look at that NIL deal and see if it's reasonable. Is that a market value type of deal? $2.3 million for an NIL deal? Is that above board? They're going to break down every single deal that is over $600. That's where you're going to have massive problems, because how is a College Sports Commission or a computer system, how are you to determine what the market value is for a player?
Mm-hmm.
If you got one player out making $1 million, you got another player out here making $2 million, how are you to say that his NIL deal is not fair? That's where it's going to get very hairy, because you can have lawsuits filed. You can have arbitration to discuss this, but nobody knows how this rules process is going to work out. We were just on a press conference a few hours ago with the commissioners from the SEC, the Big 12, the ACC, the Pac-12 was in there as well. Big 12, and even they don't know right now what those rules are going to be. So I think those are the 3 biggest things that I hit at. And guys, by the way, we hadn't even talked about Title IX.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be lawsuits from Title IX. And I think that is the next thing that's coming. But I think to kind of wrap up the question on that, Jake, if you didn't have an NIL deal that was put into place before Friday night at midnight, this past Friday at midnight, every NIL deal from then going forward has to be approved. And it's going to be a weird situation when this first one is denied, and then we're sitting here fighting with each other on what is a correct NIL deal and what's not. It's wild.
Before I kick it over to my left here, Trey, just one part of that, and that was perfectly put. I think that's about as layman's terms as this is going to get. When we talk about the cap, that $20.5 million, but that is directly from the school to the player, as you said, right?
Yeah.
And then, but there's other ways. If Arch Manning, let's say Dr. Pepper wanted to do a deal with Arch Manning and not involve the school and pay him $10 million, well, if that gets sent in and gets approved, then that doesn't go against the cap, right? Correct, of the roster. That is a separate thing because it is not paid through the school to the player. I just want to make sure. So there is that separation. So a guy could make $30 million a year as a player and only have like an $8 million hit on the cap per se, just as an example, right?
Absolutely. And that's why you're going to have these third-party collectives and the folks that are inside the schools try to go out and find those deals. Like somebody at Texas, their job is going to be go find NIL deals for Arch Manning or our star wide receiver or defensive lineman. Why? Well, because it's not going to count towards the cap. It's not going to count towards, let's just say, the $16 million that you're allocated.
But it has to get approved, right? Through that process that you said, the computer program.
Yes, it has to get approved. So you can't have some, I wrote about it last night. You could have a business be technically like an NIL front to pay these players, meaning some donor gives a business $300,000 and says, hey, I want you to have this player represent your company, and we'll kind of do this on the download. What I'm getting at is that if this stuff is not approved, like Dr. Pepper, sure. Like those type of companies, United Airlines, whatever, you want to name it, those type of things probably will get through, but they'll be scrutinized. But it's the other deals. It's the $800,000 deal from the local car dealership and the guy's only doing 2 appearances. That's where it's going to get tricky.
Starting this podcast felt overwhelming. Scripts, setup, filming schedule, logos. We were trying to figure it all out. Well, and what we did find out is when you're launching something new, your to-do list is going to grow daily, threatening to take over your life, and finding a tool that both helps and simplifies can be a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Make that noise, David.
Cha-ching!
Man, that sounded really good. Shopify powers millions of businesses worldwide and 10% of all U.S. e-commerce. Shopify. They're behind everyone from big names like Gymshark to that new brand you may have just discovered. Starting out is simple. Just pick one of their hundreds of templates and customize it to match your style. No design skills needed. And creating content? Come on, man. That's where their AI really shines. You need product descriptions. You need catchy headlines. Done. Want better product photos? They've got you covered. But the best part is how easy marketing becomes. You can reach your customers wherever they are, whether they're scrolling through social media, checking their email, and behind the scenes, Shopify handles everything else: inventory, shipping, returns, all those details you don't want to worry about. Because the truth is, if you're ready to sell something, Shopify is ready for you. So turn your big business idea into cha-ching with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Crain. That's shopify.com/CRAIN, shopify.com/Crain.
Trey, I have so many questions for you here, and that was a great synopsis there. I want to back up just a little bit because there are some people who've been asking me, hey, I thought college athletes were already able to get paid. So, the O'Bannon versus NCAA case and the Alston versus NCAA case, that sort of lifted the veil of amateurism, right? So that the NCAA couldn't stand in the way of athletes being able to monetize their name, image, and likeness. But now these payments get to come directly from the programs and the universities via the revenue sharing, because it's always been sort of fascinating to me that we're now trying to pay college athletes, but not from the pool of money from the product that we're selling. We're asking the boosters to sort of make up and pay the athletes while the schools get to maintain all of the revenue that they're able to create. So the statement that Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, put out, he had this percentage figure of 22.5% of the revenue is what's able to be shared. So I guess that's where the $20.5 million cap is coming from. And it sounds like that is going to go up every year over the course of this decade-long agreement. Is that correct?
Yeah, I could see, let's just say 6 years down the road, I could see that being $30 million, every single year that they have.
Okay.
You also have to think about it this way, too. They're running off a different fiscal year, okay? So really, everybody's heard July 1st as the date when all this starts. Well, July 1st is only going to run through June of next year. So you can't start paying your athletes for the next season, for the 2026 season, until July. So how do you get around that part? You're going to have schools that are going to save up money so that they can pay these guys in the spring portal period and in the summer before the next season even begins. And what you have seen right now, leading up to July 1st and last Friday, a lot of schools were front-loading deals. Well, what do I mean by that? Front-loading deals means if Auburn basketball signed a player out of the portal in May, but they don't want the money that they're going to pay that athlete to count towards the cap, they're going to pay a majority of that contract off by July 1st. I know everybody saw the Texas Tech softball pitcher signed a $1.2 million deal, and it was done about 4 hours before the stroke of midnight last Friday. Well, what is Texas Tech going to do? They're going to pay a good chunk, a majority of that $1.2 million deal. They're going to pay it before July 1st, where it will not count. So you don't have to worry about softball program having to foot the bill for $1.2 million. That's what they're doing right now to get around this. Is they're just front loading and giving these guys the cash at the moment. And then all of a sudden, okay, we don't have to worry about that counting towards the 16 million. And that's where it's going to get tricky, because if you're going to pay in a lot of these contracts, they're having buyout clauses now. There's different sets of elements that are in these, but you're going to pay a kid, let's just say $2 million for the football season, but you're going to try to get it off the books for July 1st. But then he wants to go back to the table, and then he's thinking about leaving right after the season's over when he still has eligibility. That's where there's going to be problems with what they're doing right now, front-loading these deals.
It's just interesting to hear the term salary cap when really a cap doesn't exist if you're able to add on the NIL and collective money on top of this, revenue sharing money. But can you just talk about how this settlement will impact a few other areas? First, the transfer portal, right? If a school has already paid a kid, can he just leave? What happens to that money? What's going to happen with walk-ons and the roster limits? I mean, walk-ons to me were the lifeblood of college football when I played. And then also importantly, what's going to happen now for non-revenue generating sports if you have these athletic directors who say, wait, you know what? I want to spend the entire cap on just football and, a couple dollars on basketball, and we're not going to carry non-revenue generating sports anymore.
I think the roster limit thing, if folks were kind of paying attention to it, I know folks got tired of hearing about house settlement, but the judge in that case pretty much came back and said, look, I want you to grandfather this thing in when it comes to roster limits. You cannot kick these kids off immediately and just wash your hands up. You got to give them an opportunity to either stick with the school or in some cases where that eligibility technically will count in the next year or so. So meaning a lot of these coaches across the country in these schools, and by the way, it's not on the coaches because they thought that there was going to be a different rule. So they had to make room on their roster. 105 down to 85. What's the roster limit going to look like? Is it going to be 120? And then when the judge came back and said, you cannot eliminate these spots right now on the fly and give these kids no warning that it's coming and leave these walk-ons, some of which turn into be really good players. That's why we have the Burtlesworth Trophy every single year. I think that what the judge ended up doing by saying, you're going to roll this thing out for the walk-ons, meaning you can't cut them immediately. They're going to be able to play on the team. Now, the schools have to, what's the best way to put this? They have to categorize them as designated student athletes. Okay. So pretty much you get a 1-year pass. You get a 1-year pass of having these other players, these walk-ons on the roster where it doesn't count towards your cap limit roster size. So that part's good. Congratulations to them. You were just talking about what happens to the other sports. I wrote an article about this on Monday morning, and there's going to be a big problem moving forward. Because if you were football and basketball, and I'm not even saying basketball, generates a lot of revenue. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But it's not like it's where you can go out and spend $10 million. So if you're not one of those programs, so let's just say softball, volleyball, rowing, Olympic track and field, some basketball programs, mid-major levels and whatnot that are draining. this is where the problem is going to lie, is that if you're not creating the revenue, but then you want a bigger piece of the pie, let's just say the $20.5 million, okay, well, you're going to come up short. And then how much longer are the schools going to be able to afford? And this stuff is not cheap. Like, you've got track events that are going on right now to wrap up kind of the spring and summer period on the college level. Okay, so are you going to pay the $300,000, the charter flight, to get them out there? Are you going to pay the $500,000 a year that you're spending on hotels? Are you going to spend the money that it costs to fly your baseball team, private, charter, to get to these certain spots? No. I think you're going to see a time now where they got to start trimming some of this money, because there's two things. You're operating on a budget every year, and this is what people kind of forget about. You're paying for the travel, you're paying for the hotels, you're paying for the scholarships, you're paying for the meals. Okay, now on the other side, you got to pay a little NIL money too to the players. So it's like, whoa, wait a minute. This sport's not generating any money, but they expect us to turn around and give them, let's just say, $5 million a year for NIL. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work. So what's that going to lead to? You're going to cut some sports, man. And I hate to say it, and I hate to be that guy, but I'm just giving reality here. It's coming. It might not be this year, and it might not be next year. Might be 4 years down the road, but you're going to see schools start cutting track and field, rowing, volleyball. Some of these mid-major softball programs are going to get cut. You can't afford them anymore. And you're relying on football to pay a lot of the bills. Now, some schools are about to change the game here, because they're going to be able to take that money that they're going to get every year, $20.5 million. They're going to be able to do a majority of it for basketball. Villanova, UConn, if they want to. Some of these schools are going to be able to say, no, we're going to spend $16 million and we're going to put us together a basketball team.
Well, Trey, that's why Kentucky's so interesting to me. Like, if you're like Kentucky, it's like, well, basketball is our thing, bro. Like, I mean, I think Kentucky fans, I would, again, we live, right next to the state, but I would, if you polled every Kentucky fan, I would think a majority would want the money that people are spending on football at these other places in the SEC to go to basketball. And Trey, maybe that can get Kentucky back to the top of the mountain again like they used to be if they were able to do it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, 80% of these SEC schools, 90%, whatever, they're going to spend most of that money on football.
But football is more expensive even if you value basketball more, right? Just because, like, the number of
roster's
players,
bigger and stuff,
like that.
Yeah, but you're not wrong, though. Like, you a lot of these schools, basketball powerhouse are going to be like, wait a minute. No. Think of Kelvin Sampson in Houston. They just won a national championship. So you want to go tell that national championship winning coach, hey, by the way, I hate to say this because it doesn't generate that much revenue, but we're only going to give you $3 to $4 million, even though you just won that national championship. We go, Kelvin Sampson, wait a minute.
Right?
What?
Yeah, right.
I don't think so. Like the Houston Cougars football program, sorry, but it's not like they're putting up fantastic results every year. Give me that money. That's where you're going to see a lot of problems inside athletic departments, guys.
Let's talk about something that separates the men from the boys. And I'm not just talking about the gridiron. I'm talking about your health, the most important thing. Now, this isn't your grandpa's Centrum either. This is the Emerson multivitamin from Responsible Man. Now, I know what you're thinking, Jake. I eat my Wheaties. I do a couple push-ups every now and then. I'm good. But if you're not giving your body the fuel it needs every single day, then you're not ready for game day, and we're not going to sit back and allow that to happen. Now, this Emerson multivitamin is packed with 33 key ingredients that supports your body and gives it the energy that it needs. And new for this season, Responsible Man just launched Theodore Protein with 25 grams of clean American-made protein power. It's fuel for men who lead, protect, and show up strong. No soy boys and no shortcuts. And American men, we're on average 30 to 50 grams of protein short. We got to figure this out. All right, that gap adds up, leading to fatigue, slower recovery, and muscle loss over time. A quality protein supplement like Theodore helps close the gap fast, clean, and strong. Plus, Responsible Man's a Daily Wire Ventures company. So these vitamins and protein are made right here in the good old US of A. No cheap imports, no outsourcing, just good old-fashioned American quality. Now, we wouldn't endorse this if we didn't believe in it. This vitamin's part of our daily routine, just like watching game tape and getting your mind and body ready. It's our secret for living a long and healthy life. So here's the deal. Right now, you can take advantage of Responsible Man's Father's Day sale and get your first order for 50% off. Just head over to responsibleman.com and use our code BOOSTER. That's BOOSTER at checkout. But hurry, these deals will not last long. That's responsibleman.com, code BOOSTER for 50% off.
Hey, do you think this settlement just guarantees, like the rich programs, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, just the rich get richer and the smaller schools are just going to get left even further behind?
I think it all depends on how much some of these so-called smaller schools are infiltrated with money by some donors. I think that's the only way. Like I do. Like I'm a South Alabama Jaguar guy. I where I went, okay, and I love my Jags, but at the same time, it's not like we have a big old donor base of billionaires that are willing to give money, millionaires that are willing to give money to the football program. Sure, there's going to be money allocated, but how's my South Alabama Jaguars going to afford $20.5 million a year?
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, they're not.
They can't. So, I feel bad for them, but at the same time, that's where I'm fascinated to see what happens in conferences like the Sun Belt, Conference USA, the MAC. I can go on and on. Is how do these programs stay afloat? And if it doesn't, it's already turned into a farm system for college football. I look at the Sun Belt and all these other conferences like AAA baseball before they get called up to the bigger schools. And that's unfortunate because I love those teams. But at the same time, guys, this is the new reality that we're in right now. And I don't know how some of them are going to afford to keep up.
Well, if a team wanted to push past the 20.5 cap, could they? Could they and just catch a lawsuit?
Well, go ahead, Trey. Go ahead. You respond to that.
I mean, they could. They could. There's rules being put in place. Brian Seeley is the new CEO of this college sports commission. He's got MLB experience on rules and whatnot.
Which I don't know if that's a great thing.
Can you explain that to people, Trey? Because that was the most fascinating part of this. Can you explain what the College Sports Commission is and how that's taking over the enforcement angle from the NCAA?
College Sports Commission, in just simple terms, is going to be the enforcement arm of the House settlement. They're going to make the rules. They're going to make the punishments. They're going to approve the deals. The NCAA will just be around for academics and some eligibility. That's the NCAA's job now. Eligibility, academics. The last big piece of news that I think the NCAA, besides the men's basketball tournament and whatnot, I get that part. But at the end of the day, the last biggest piece of news that you'll probably see besides the NCAA men's tournament is what's going to happen with the Michigan Wolverines. No offense to you, my brother, but they are involved right now in a committee on infractions hearing about the Connor Stallion stuff. So I'm just saying, NCAA's lost the power now. Now it comes down to this new College Sports Commission where there'll be a number of people involved in it. They got a CEO. They're going to be the ones that are replacing the NCAA. And if you break rules, you got to deal with them. And I think that's the best way to put it.
Trey, a couple things here. Again, so because a lot of people will be asking, all right, what happened to the rosters? What happened to the rosters? So what is the official roster size going forward for a college football team?
Well, right now, you look at the 85, but with the walk-ons that you're going to stick at, this is where it's going to get tricky because it all depends on how many spots that you actually have and how many you want to put on the team. So it's going to be anywhere between 105 to 120. But you have to remember, those players that are going to be walk-ons, they're going to be designated student athletes. So they have to be checked off a list every year. Mm-hmm. So if you really want to get down to it, it's in that 85 type of range, but you add these players that are going to be grandfathered in.
Yeah.
So technically it could be around 120 this year. And then when we're having this conversation next year, it could be down to 85 or even lower.
That's 85 scholarships though, right? That's 85 scholarship players. Okay. That makes sense. College baseball. What about now you can get full scholarships, right?
You could see 35 scholarships now.
That's insane.
When it
That's
was
insane.
11.7.
Ron Polk is dancing right now, buddy. That is insane.
Tim Corbin's like, wait, what'd y'all do?
Yeah.
We kind of had the upper. What do you mean everybody gets scholarships now if they want it? Like,
Yeah. And basketball's about the same, right? Basketball's about the same. Okay.
basketball's the same.
Okay, I do want to add this caveat. This did not fit. I don't know if they'll ever fix all of this, but there is a couple things that are, and everything's open to litigation, I guess, in a sense. But like eligibility, this does nothing with you have 5 years to play 4, or you have 40 years to play 4. This does not answer that question, right? That's still out there. So as far as can a guy play for 9 years in college, this has no language in it about, your ass has 5 years to play 4, and then you gotta go get on LinkedIn or something.
Absolutely nothing to do with eligibility. I think that's going to come down to, at the end of the day, I think they're going to agree to something. That's where the NCAA still has a little bit of power here in that sense. But I do think that they're about to put in a rule. It won't count towards. I know one of the biggest cases right now is Zakai Ziegler from Tennessee, where he's fighting. But I think a year from now, you'll have 5 seasons to play. 5 years to play 5 seasons. Best way to put it.
Wow.
Like I think I do. I think that they're about to make that happen because a lot of people are fighting the red shirt rule and whatnot, which, and you guys know this, ball. Okay. Like a lot of times coaches are the ones that make the decision. Hey man, you're red shirting this year. Like you're going to learn the college game. Okay, well, if that player is not exposed, there's no exposure for him. He's not getting on the field. It kind of hurts his NIL market. So I understand the argument, but at the same time, it's always been, you've got 5 years to technically play 4 seasons of a sport. Now you're about to say 5 and 5. Okay, what's next? 6 and 6, 7 and 7.
Yeah,
like it's going to go on, and there's going to be court cases, and all it takes is one court case.
That's the next lawsuit.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the next lawsuit. Hey, Trey, while we got you, I do want your opinion on Simone Biles going after your colleague, Riley Gaines. I mean, here's a young lady who was able to win Olympic gold medals because she wasn't competing against men, and she acknowledged as much in 2017. Now she's coming after a civil rights hero in Riley Gaines and pointing out her physical characteristics about you're bigger than a man, so you should compete against men. It's just absolutely asinine to me. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, that was some interesting timing on Friday night that all goes down on social media right when the House settlement breaks. So that was fun. Men should not be competing in women's sports. That's just a logical conclusion on my part. It is. I think that Simone Biles coming out, and you don't have to body shame. You don't have to attack other females. Everybody has a purpose in this country. And everybody has a platform, whether that's small, whether that's big. You can be a local Congress leader, the local it doesn't matter. Everybody has a platform in a sense. You are free to say whatever you want to say. I think what Simone did, it hurt what she's trying to do with the brand, in my opinion, because it was pointless to come out and just attack somebody. You can have a conversation with somebody where you disagree on something, but at the end of the day, you respect that opinion. I respect you. Like, I don't agree with everything going on in this country, but you know what? I damn well respect their opinion. Don't attack me. Don't body shame me. Don't come after me and say that I'm a loser and whatnot and I'm profiting off these people. Like, no, I have an opinion. You've got an opinion. Sorry if it doesn't match up, but at the end of the day, I respect it. I think what she did, she lowered the standard, in my opinion, and she probably should have been a little bit smarter. And I'm not here. Look, Simone Biles is a grown woman. She can do whatever the hell she wants to do. She can attack who she wants to attack. But for somebody that has been propped up, in a sense, and been able to elevate gymnastics because of the people that came before her, and now all of a sudden you want to attack another athlete, it could have gone so much better in a sense of having a damn discussion about it. So I think it could have gone extremely better than it did. And this is a situation in the country that's not going away anytime soon. And we've got a crap load of problems that are currently ongoing right now. And this is one of them.
Yeah. Well, Trey, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. You do great work over there at Outkick. Thank you for putting that into layman's terms so our audience can really understand it and know what to expect moving forward. Tell everybody where they can find your stuff at.
Yeah, you can follow me at Outkick.com. Follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you like to call it, at Trey Wallace _. Lots of stuff will continue coming from the house and settlement, and then football season will be here before you know it. So thank you guys for having me.
Trey, thanks, buddy.
Be well.
All right, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and like the chances of me thinking there won't be any more lawsuits against the NCAA or anybody involved in college athletics. We're going. Gone.